How is it going, fight fans? Joey G from Wrestling Headlines, and I am honored to be joined today by a man who needs no introduction. He is a former NWA World Champion. He is Mama Storm's baby boy. He is the one and only Mr. Tim Storm. Tim, thank you so very much for joining me today, sir.
Hey, Joey G, it's my pleasure, man. I look at this. I look at this stuff like we're all on the same team and we're trying to get to the same place. We just need to do it together. So I'm right here with you.
I'm happy that you think that because I like to be always on the side of the wrestlers. And I always like to start these interviews with something fun, a nice fun fact, or a nice fun trip down memory lane. Uh, you know, Back in 2016, you helped ring in this new era for the NWA brand when you were crowned their world champion. From there, you went on a string of successful title defenses against opponents from all around the world, including the one and only Jerry Lawler. Now, do you have any memories of that match? And can you talk a little bit about what it was like to work with the King?
I have nothing but good memories. I know that a lot of people don't have positive things, or some don't have positive things to say about working with Jerry. I have no negatives. I knew going in that it was going to be a completely old school type match. At the time, I had, like you said, I had some success primarily as a fan favorite, but you can't really be a fan favorite against Jerry Lawler, right? I mean, the crowd loves Jerry Lawler. There's in every match there's that first 2, 3, 4 minutes of kind of figuring out if the other guy knows what they're doing, and I didn't have that fear from him at all, but he didn't know me that well as far as being in the ring. And it came to a point pretty quickly where I guess he felt comfortable with me and basically just turned over the reins and said, "It's all yours. Let's go." Mm-hmm. But the match itself, easy, fun, safe. The crowd ate every second of it up, and completely old school, which that's my ballpark.
That's really cool to see. And, I think you have certainly excelled at making what is old new again. When NWA Powerrr finally hit the airwaves on YouTube, I got to say, man, personally, I had only heard about a little bit about the legacy of Tim Storm from the 10 Pound of Gold series, but I finally got to see you in action for the first time myself on that debuted episode of Powerrr. And my man, I just spoke to Nick Aldis about this. That opening episode of Powerrr, that NWA title matchup between you and him, was, in my opinion, one of the best title matches of the year, maybe even one of the best matches of the year. And I sing those praises because I thought it was super important to be able to kickstart that program with such an important feud. I did talk to Mr. Aldis about this, but I'd love to get your perspective on that. Did you guys realize going in what impact that opening matchup was going to have for the rest of the show?
I think, all of NWA Powerrr as it started to form and air, and we walked in the building, everything up to that point, and again with Billy and Dave, everything they did exceeded expectations. That always, just walking into that arena and seeing the old school colors, kind of a new backdrop, and it was a good mix of old and new. But anytime so setting the tone's always important. Main event of a TV show always important. First episode. Yes. I think we walked into that with at least a comfort with each other at that point, having had 3 or 4 matches that the unknown was gone. We know what to expect. And let me be honest, I want to put Nick over on this because Nick should get credit for that because, as I continue to get older, I have more and more limitations, but at that point, Nick knew what I could do and what I couldn't do. We didn't do anything that there wasn't a spot in there like there was in our first match where it was like, okay, I'm not quite sure if I'm good with this, but I'm going to try it because it's a big match. Man, I go back and I look at that match, and I can picture parts of it in my head, especially toward the finish. And I like watching the fans instead of watching the match. Mm-hmm. Man, I think what I live for as a wrestler is connecting with an audience, reaching out, and getting some kind of reaction, depending on where you're at, right? But watching the fans in that match, they were on the edge of their seat. They were standing. They were literally living and dying with our, as those finishes started happening. And you can watch the faces and see who was cheering for Nick and who was cheering for me. That's wrestling to me. That's why we do this. And did I know the importance of that first match and kicking off this? I don't know that I grasped it. I did feel the pressure of, we need to deliver in this situation, and we did. But Nick gets a lot of credit for that because he knows what I can and can't do, what I don't do well.
Sure. Well, you may give credit to the national treasure. I'd like to give credit to you, Mr. Storm, because truly, in that moment, I became a Tim Storm fan. I'm happy you were talking a little bit about your connection to the fans, because that kind of leads into my next question. I want to say that you are always a star. I know you worked many, many years across the U.S., in Arkansas, your home state, in Texas, all over pretty much. Right. Always a star. But once Powerrr hit the airwaves, and after that initial episode, your fandom grew exponentially. I hope you know that, because I know you turned me into a Tim Storm fan.
Thank you.
Now, even when you weren't in the main event scene in Powerrr, you were definitely one of the NWA favorites. I mean, I know you already kind of just mentioned it, but if you could elaborate a little bit more, do you recognize the connection that you have with the fans, especially these old school NWA fans that live for these in-ring storytelling, not so much the high spots or the lucha libre? And again, that is a very important part of wrestling today. But this old school form of storytelling that you guys are so good at.
Going through the curtain, here's kind of the way the story went. I was told you're going to have about 30 seconds before the match to just kind of, connect with the fans, or talk to the fans, tell them what your expectations are, what you want. And with NWA Powerrr, it's us, and their whole philosophy, our all talent meeting that day of the show was very big on, Billy told everybody, this is live audience. That's what we're built on. There's no entrance music. And he said, you sink or you swim. That's just it. You go out and you've got 15 feet to the ring. There's no big entrance. There's no music. Sink or swim. Well, I knew I only had about a 30-second stand-up promo before the match. And I didn't know what I could get out in 30 seconds. I didn't know if there was going to be a connection. And I don't think you ever know, as I was walking through the curtain, gorilla position, getting ready to go, Billy walks up and he goes, don't worry about the time. You do what you do, and just, and he didn't know what I could do either, right? There had not been a lot of opportunities. And my thing in wrestling, in the ring, and my thing in talking is, I'm just going to be me. And you don't know if that's a connection or not. Well, that night is Mama Storm's baby boy was born, and I literally said it and was just moving on. There's barely even a pause, because I didn't go out there, I didn't say, hey, watch this, guys, they're going to really pop for this. I had no idea. And then the connection was there. I personally can feel it when I'm in it. Okay, my background, I'm a teacher. When I'm teaching, if I'm in the middle of a story and I'm passionate about it, I know if they're listening. I know if I'm connected. It's the same thing with an audience, and I could feel you can feel their energy coming. And the Mama Storm thing started, and I just kind of rolled from there. And nobody was more surprised about the fan reaction than me, because you never know till you get there. And I mean, honor, humbling, privilege. We're only as good as the fans make us and allow us to be. And thankfully, they liked me, and they just made it better and better every time.
Sure. Honestly, there's really nothing not to say not to be thankful for, but it's so easy to like someone when they're so genuine, so honest, and they speak and they perform at this level. I grew up a theater rat. Like, I've been performing on stage pretty much my entire life, whether it be stand-up in theater, behind the camera, you name it. And it's like, it's part of the reason that I've loved this industry so much. It's because you could see those performers. It's not so much that they get it. It's that they're not afraid to strip down and bare themselves in front of that camera. And like I said, and that wasn't the only promo that you have done on Powerrr specifically, where people said, geez, I need to come back next week just to see more of that. So truly, and I'm happy you brought up being a teacher. I wanted to ask, just like you say, you sometimes will tell these stories to the students or whatnot. You ever find yourself getting riled up in the classroom. Sometimes you maybe have to switch into Storm Zero mode where you need to drop one of these students. Any of that ever happen inside the classroom where you need to lay down the law?
Well, I don't have a lot of discipline problems. I've made the joke a lot that I work heel as a teacher.
Hmm.
You know, when you're truly passionate about something, whatever that is, you know, you said you were a theater rat. If you're in the middle of a soliloquy or a presentation, and the crowd is you can feel it in the room, right? You know if they're listening, if they're into it. Um, that's the way those promos were. Sometimes it's that way in school. Sometimes it's not, right? But yeah, I don't. I use the Tim Storm Hill look in class. Yeah, the mask thing, because we wear masks all the time now, right? Really takes away about half of my intimidation when all they can see is my eyes. But you know, if I can give them the, you know, I can get their attention if I need to. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. I am both jealous of those kids that get to spend that much time with you and also very afraid when it switches into Heelstorm mode. Listen, you talked a little bit about having this conversation with Billy Corgan backstage. I know that, like, right when the NWA was kind of kickstarting this new era, you know, you were the champion to like rebrand. You started working with Nick. You started working with Billy.
Mhm.
You know, everyone outside of the wrestling world knows Billy Corgan because of his rock star fame.
Right.
You know, if you're a plugged in wrestling fan, you know that Billy Corgan has been attempting to be in the wrestling business for quite a while. He tried with Impact, TNA. He had all of these fallouts with Dixie Carter that were not his fault.
Right.
He had all of these legality things that were out of his control. Finally, he was able to unleash the beast and give us NWA Powerrr, which I believe we should, as the wrestling community, I think I could speak for some of us, say we are grateful for.
Right.
When you see Billy Corgan, is he someone that you recognize and say, this is a guy that understands this industry that I will throw my heart and soul for? Like, what is your perception, or what is the perception of Corgan backstage amongst the NWA?
Billy is very, very hands-on. He knows the wrestling business. Here's what I respect most. He is passionate about the business, and you brought it up. He had that history with Impact, and a lot of people, not if they weren't passionate about the business, that would have been it. They would have broken it off. I don't that bad experience. I'm not going to do that again. But just the fact that not only did he continue with that, but he went out and said, and I tell people this, he could have started Billy Corgan Wrestling Promotion and called it that.
Mm-hmm.
He went after a brand that he knew and he respected because he loves that old school wrestling, and this was his vision. When he said we're going to bring studio wrestling back, I grew up watching Memphis Championship Wrestling, and you know, or you know, I watched World Class. I watched, and even the old Mid South stuff was studio wrestling. There were a lot of people out there that thought, yeah, this is never going to work. The fact that Billy had the vision, that he had the passion, and the ingenuity to move forward with that in a style. I don't want to out Billy's business, but he made this presentation to some pretty big companies who couldn't see that vision.
Mm-hmm.
For him to do that, step out and not only do it but make it work. I think I'm going to get this wrong, but I remember the first episode of Powerrr when it aired. You know, you could go in and click on the video and see the views. And after about a week, we were getting up to about 500,000 views. And for a new startup thing, that was, I mean, who has that vision and knows that it's going to work?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember vividly. Again, not to make this about me, I was on my honeymoon right when Powerrr started, and I remember the wife, thank goodness, wanted to take a nap while we were in Cancun, and I said, a perfect opportunity for me to check out this new thing, which I had already heard buzzing about. And listen, I have been working at these websites and being able to talk to great wrestlers like you for 4 years. But when I watched that show, even as someone that did not grow up watching studio wrestling, I said to myself, this is different.
Yeah.
And again, even though it's a revival of this thing that existed, I was like, this is new. This is a way to see people do things in a different way, a different presentation, because for years, there was only one option for pro wrestling that had been pounded into the mindset. And it was really nice to see that. And I was so happy to see the success of the NWA. My last question for you, sir, and again, thank you for joining me, Joey, with Wrestling Headlines. It's been an absolute pleasure. Obviously, things with the NWA have taken a turn due to the unfortunate circumstances of COVID. And, they were able to air some episodes of NWA Shockwave. But trust me when I say we all eagerly await the return of NWA Powerrr. Are you planning when the promotion returns? Do you plan at any point in the future, after your wrestling career is over, to stay involved, to be able to give insight to the younger guys, to be able to pass down the knowledge that you've gained from your career? And trust me, it is valuable knowledge that they would be gaining. Is that something you foresee for yourself in the future?
Absolutely. Um, I'm at a point in my career that I'm not done. I'm not done in the ring. I don't have a timetable. I don't know when that's going to happen. But I also have always said I never want to be that guy that stays too long, and embarrasses himself or the business. So that's a fine line. But here's where I'm at today in the business, and I'm trying to do that in other places. It's passing on that knowledge. The same thing that people did for me. And one of the ways this business has changed, and not necessarily in a positive way, is we don't have those opportunities to get in a car with veterans and drive 6 hours and listen and be quiet. But that's how you build your knowledge base. We don't have that anymore. I got that opportunity with some great guys that I respect. So now what I've got left, I want to continue telling good stories in the ring. I want to be involved when it's time to step away from in ring. I want to stay involved, whether that's in the production side, the agent side, the something, because whatever knowledge I've got that was handed down to me, I want to give to somebody else. And I think that's the right thing to do in the business. And I'm passionate about the wrestling. I don't want it to be gone. I wish I could wrestle forever. I can't. But when that's gone, I still am passionate enough about it that I want to be involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must say, Mr. Storm, even at a young, I believe 55 or 56 you are, I look forward to
56, about to be 57. So
happy early birthday. I also look forward to another 15 to 20 years tearing it up in the ring. So truly, I'd like to say again, thank you for joining me, Wrestling Headlines. Is there anything you would like to plug before we go?
Hey man, just support it. Just support wrestling. Everybody out there, we're all struggling. Companies are struggling. Wrestlers are struggling. There are people that this is how they make their living that aren't getting that opportunity. Support wrestling any way you can.
Support wrestling, folks. Thank you again, Tim, so much for joining me. God bless and safety to you and yours.
Thank you. I appreciate every minute. We're same team.
Same team.